Okay, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us on this beautiful, lovely Wednesday morning as we are studying together Perashat Va'era. And I'd like to begin today's class with a question that I was asked by one of my students a few years ago, okay? And I may have shared with you the story, but one day I was with my students, and right after class, I was walking down, I think it was to lunch or to my next period, I don't remember exactly, and all of a sudden, one of my students says to me, Rabbi, and they were, respectful. They were being respectful, but they had the following question, and this specific student wasn't so observant. And he says, Rabbi, I'm willing right now to accept Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Right now, I'll become religious. I'll keep Shabbat, kosher, everything, and I'll make every kid in the school keep kosher and Shabbat. I just want one thing, okay? I just want Hashem to prove to me that He exists. That's it. That's simple. Just prove it, okay? Here, there's a wall right here. Just make a hole appear in this wall right now, God, and I'll become right away observant. Go. Do it. Let's go. Hello, go, do it right, go. Right? And of course, out of nowhere, a hole appeared in the wall. No, I'm kidding. Of course not. Right? There was no hole that appeared in the wall. Right? Now, what would you answer to this person? What would you say? So it's an amazing story. And again, these Dvar Torah that we are sharing in this time of year of Perashat Va'era, Shemot Va'era Bo, these few weeks, they are Divrei Torah that we should as well, first of all, keep in our minds for the entire year. But they are also thoughts that we should put in our back pockets, if you will, for the Rosh Hashanah, for the Pesach season. Okay, for the beginning of the new year, which is Nisan, for Pesach season, and these are very powerful thoughts and ideas. So there is an amazing story that I would like to begin with to answer this question. The story is told of the famous Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. Many of you probably have heard of him. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter one time was traveling to an inn that he stayed at all the time, and he noticed that the innkeeper, that usually happened to be an observant fellow, all of a sudden this trip, Rabbi Salanter notices that he is not observant. He is not at all committed to any of the mitzvot. He didn't see him. So anyways, he approaches him and he says, I always know you to be somebody that's observant. All of a sudden, I'm noticing on this trip, you're not praying, you're not doing anything. Something happened. Do you want to speak about it? And the man says, listen, Rabbi, I'll be honest. Yes, I used to be observant, but then, something happened. I was putting on tefillin one day, and a man walks into the resort, to the hotel, to the inn, and he says to me, he starts laughing at me. What are you doing? You wearing tefillin? Come on. You really believe in that? You believe in this whole nonsense thing? Come on, don't do this to me. You don't really believe. Well, because it says in the Torah. All right, you know what? I'll make you a deal. It says in the Torah that you cannot eat pork, okay? Here's a piece of pork, a piece of ham, and if God exists, then let me choke on it, okay? Rabbi, he ate the pork. He had seconds. He licked his fingers. Nothing happened to him. And ever since that day, it was very hard for me to accept Hashem. Okay, strong question. Rabbi Salanter, of course, did not answer him. He left it alone. A few days later, he notices outside the daughter of the innkeeper is walking with this whole entourage of people, and they are coming and they are parading her and lauding her. And Rabbi Salanter inquires what's going on. Why is everybody praising this girl? And they tell him she just won first place in the local, whatever the American Idol version was at the time, best voice in the town. So Rabbi Salanta was very impressed. There was a lot of talent back then in that city. First place is very impressive. So he goes over to the girl, to the daughter of the innkeeper. He says, listen, honey, he probably didn't say honey, but he said to her, listen, I heard that you won first place. I heard you have a nice voice. Could you please sing for me? And she's like, no. He said, come on, please, I really want to hear you sing. Again, I heard very nice things about your voice. And she's like, no. And he goes over to the innkeeper. He says, your daughter, they said she has a very nice voice, but she doesn't want to sing for me. Could you please ask her to sing for me? So he says, honey, he's a big rabbi. He's asking you nicely to sing. Why don't you want to sing for him? And she goes, Dad, I already proved myself to the best of the best. Okay? I already got the diploma. I already got the piece of paper that says it. And if you don't believe me, the proof's right here. I don't have to now go for every bozo that starts saying, oh, you have such a nice voice, prove it to me, and start singing for them. I did it once. I did it for the best of the best. You don't believe me? Here's the piece of paper. Rabbi Salanta turns to the innkeeper and he says, it's the same exact thing with Hashem. Hashem does not come down every day for a new guy that's going to start saying, Hashem, if you're really there, let me choke on this piece of ham. That's not how Hashem works. He proved himself once to the best of the best. He showed that he exists. He showed that he could do miracles. And that is it. He's not going to come every day for another guy and prove to him. And this is what I told my friend. My friend, I said to him, listen, we'll call him Joe. I said, Joe, Hashem's not going to come and make a hole in the wall. Because you know what will happen? He'll make a hole for you. And you'll be so impressed that you'll become observant. And you're going to go down to the lunchroom and say, everybody, I want to tell you all, start keeping Shabbat. Become fully religious. No more nonsense. And I just saw Hashem make a hole in the wall. Imagine you went down to the lunchroom and you said that to everybody. Guess what they're going to say next? I didn't see the hole in the wall. You know what? I want to see Hashem make a hole. Show me. Guess what? There was a guy one time that tried doing that. His name was Yeshu. He said, I walked on water, I did miracles, and you know who was there to see it? Nobody. And he started a whole religion following just me and the miracles that I saw. It's not going to work. Hashem cannot come down to every kid's bar mitzvah and make a hole in the wall and say, okay, you ready? Start putting tefillin every day. Hashem did it once. He did it in Egypt. And for an ever and ever and ever, we revert back to those miracles. Hashem proved, and this answers a question that was asked earlier this week. We sometimes wonder, why did Hashem need 10 makot? 10 plagues for the Jews to go free. You think about it, if you're God, what would you do? Enough of this nonsense, no wasting time, straight to number 10. Bechorot, kill them all, let them go. Listen, I don't play games. Okay, I give you one warning and that's it. Sometimes I get annoyed. You look at, parents that they give a warning and they don't follow through. I'm just warning you, you better behave. I'm counting to 3. 1, 2, 2.5, 2 3/4. Right? I hate that. If you're going to say it, you got to stick to what you say. You're going to count to 3. 3 is 3. Not 3 is 10. Because then your kids don't take you seriously. Right? I'm very into this, by the way. Okay? You don't have to say, but once you say, you got to follow through. Hashem, you're going to let him go? Just let him go. One warning, that's it. I'm giving you one chance. It's a fair chance. I'm not going to control you. You want to let him go, let him go. And why does Hashem have to go through 10 plagues? A very interesting question. And I believe the answer that's given by the Kli Yakar and many others is that the makot were not for us to leave. The makot were not to punish Paro. or the Egyptians. They could have done that with a very strong, powerful makkah. One would have sufficed. The makot, Rabotai, was an education process. Educating whom? The Jewish people. Because we have said many times before that the Jewish people's stay in Egypt affected us not only physically, but even spiritually. And over the years, we have fallen into a very steep avodah zarah path. When we got to Yam Suf, the water did not want to split. The water said they serve idolatry and they serve idolatry. Why should we split for you? Why should we split? You guys do avodah zarah. The Jewish people, we were influenced by the idolatry of the Egyptians. And like the Meshech Chochmah says, a beautiful line, taking us out of Egypt was easy. Taking Egypt out of us was the hard part. Isn't that beautiful? He doesn't phrase it like that, but that's what he's trying to say. Taking us out of Egypt was easy. Taking Egypt out of us was the difficult part. We had Egypt in us. We were in love with the culture. And that's why if you look in our parasha, it says in the pasuk, and I'll try to bring it up very quickly. It says, it says in the pasuk, I have to find it, but it says that Hashem took the Jewish people out of Egypt. And then a pasuk later it says, and I will take the Jewish people out of Egypt. I mean, what kind of two taking outs are there? Here it is, chapter 7, pasuk 4. V'lo yishma lechem Paro, Paro will not listen to you, and I will extend my hand over Egypt and take you out with my legions from the land of Egypt. Ve'yadeu Mitzrayim, next pasuk, pasuk 5. And the Egyptians will know that I am Hashem as I extend my hand, and I will take the people out of Egypt. Yes, you just said that. Says the Meshech Chochmah, there's two types of taking out. One is taking the people out of the land, and the other is taking, again, the ideology, the culture out of us. When we say Yetziat Mitzrayim is not only a geographical redemption. We were so, influenced by the Egyptians that Hashem had to take the Egyptian out of us. That's a very important thought. And so the Jewish people, to get out of that, Hashem had to educate us. The 10 Makot were to educate us, to help us become people that were worthy to receive the Torah. Now let us study the beautiful Pesukim and see how that all connects, okay? But with that in mind, we answer our original question. Why 10 Makot? Again, 10, you didn't need 10 to take us out. One would have done that, accomplished. 10 were because, and we're going to see now how each part of the 10 were specifically an educating process. Again, we know the Maharal that we quoted earlier this week. The Maharal says that each one of the plagues is corresponding to another one of the 10 utterances that Hashem created the world with. And that's a very nice a study in itself. But today we're not going to go there. Today we're going to go to the Kli Yakar. There are three types of non-believers. Non-believer number one, somebody that says there's no such thing as God. Doesn't accept the concept of a creator. There's no creator. There's no, although today even, science believes that there is an original force. It's amazing because that's God. I had a friend by me for Shabbat. He's studying in Baltimore. And he was telling me he was sitting on the train next to this person and respectfully, debating. The guy's like, I don't believe in God. I do believe in a force that... So he's basically, yes, so that's God. You do believe in God. Maybe you want to use a different word. I don't care. Use whatever word you want to use. I call him God. You call it a force. It's the same thing. Right? So the first type of denier, they deny the concept of a God altogether. The second level are people that deny the concept of divine providence. That means there is a God, he did create, but he completely left this world. It is uninteresting to him. He could care less about us and about our affairs. And the third type of denier is the one that says there are many gods. That's also asur for us to believe. Now, there is an interesting Rambam. The Rambam says regarding Christianity and Islam that they are a very important part and process to us and bringing the world closer to monotheism. This is a very big chidush, novelty. The Rambam says although Christianity is asur for us to accept, but it's an important and necessary part to bring the world from paganism to monotheism. I guess the stopover between the two would be Christianity. Even though they believe in the Trinity, but at least it's much closer to monotheism than paganism. So that's a stopover. It's something that is important, and it's part of Hashem's plan of bringing the world to Bayomahu Yeh Hashem Echad U'Shemo Echad. To on that day, the world will be one, and they will accept Hashem as the one. But either way, at the end of the day, in its truest sense, believing in many gods is completely asur. And if we look closely at the Makot, we find that they come in 3 different shifts. And the 3 shifts are because each shift was to counter a different ideology. The first shift was to counter no God. The second shift was to counter that there's no divine providence. The third shift is to counter many gods. And so the first 3, and if we look closely, this is an amazing study. If you open up to right before Makat Dam, and I'm reading the Pasuk. The Pasuk says, Ko Amar Hashem. Okay, you want a Pasuk? Let's find the Pasuk. I know we like Pasukim. Okay? Here he is. Pasuk, chapter 7, Pasuk 17. Ko Amar Hashem. Right before the first plague of blood. If you look closely, before the first plague, there was an introduction. Before the 4th plague, there was an introduction. And before the 7th plague, there was an introduction. Unbelievable. Before plague 1, says Hashem, Bezot tedaki ani Hashem. With this you will know that I am God. Those words, with this you will know. The goal of the following 3 makot, again, not so much to Paro, the goal to us Jews. With this you will know that I am God. There is a God. There is a creator. There is a force. Ideology number 1. And I will afflict you with blood. And if you look at the first 3 makot, what do they basically do? They transform nature. That's what a creator does. He creates. He turns the water into blood. It wasn't just watercoloring. Because how do we know that the blood was actual blood? And it wasn't just a red dye? The Pasuk says that all the fish died. They wouldn't die if it was just red colored water. Right? Many aquariums have different colored water. If the fish died because Moshe changed the water, he turned it into blood. That's a reality that only a God can do. Tefardea, the frogs. Kinim, the lice. It says this is just a tangent. It says by the plague of lice that Hashem, the Egyptians finally said, Etzba Elokimhi. This is the finger of God. What changed by lice that they said this is the finger of God? Why not by blood, frogs? Why lice? And the answer is by each makkah, the Egyptians duplicated it. Blood, they made blood. This was their way of showing Moshe, look, you see, we could do it too. Frogs, they made more frogs. Lice, they couldn't. They couldn't make lice. How come? Well, because an Egyptian or any magic, in order to be done, they have to be rooted on the ground. Okay, there's an interesting story that's brought down with oh man, what was his name? Okay, We're forgetting his name. But well, his name will come. But one of the rabbis in the Gemara, that he wanted to get rid of the witches. So he had all of his students carry the witches into the air, because once they're off the ground, they have no power. Either way, once the Egyptians couldn't duplicate the lice, they realized they can't do magic because they're not standing on the ground, which means that Moshe transformed the ground into actual lice. He didn't just make it look like lice, he changed the nature of the sand into lice. Okay? So either way, these are the first 3 makot. Next 3. Number 4. Right before the 4th makkah, the pasuk says, "Vehifleti bayom hahu et eretz Goshen." I will separate on that day the land of Goshen. Asher ami omer aleha. This goes back to Joe's question yesterday. Why is it that by makot 4, 5, and 6, there and only there does it say that Hashem would separate between the Jews and the non-Jews? Amazing question. But the answer is because the goal of the 4th, 5th, and 6th makot were to show that there is divine providence. There is hashgacha peratit. And Hashem could tell the wild animals go here and not here. Hashem could kill the animals that belong to the Jews, to the non-Jews, and then keep the ones to the Jews alive. He bring boils. He could bring shechin, the boils, to specifically an Egyptian and a Jew standing together. It will hit the Egyptian, not the Jew. This is divine providence. This was the goal. Like the pasuk says, Vehifleti. And I am Hashem. The pasuk ends. Lema'an, that's so that you will know. Ki ani Hashem bekerev haaretz, God says. I am in the land. I didn't leave you alone. I didn't just go up to space somewhere high and it's irrelevant to me what's going on planet Earth. No, I am here. I am involved. You do matter. Very powerful words. And again, this is in the text. Introduction to the 4th makkah. And by the way, again, a nice tangent. It says after the 5th plague, Lo met ad ehad. Okay, from the Egyptians, all of their animals that were left outside died, basadeh, and by the Jews, Lo met ad ehad. By the Jews, you know how many died? Not a single one. Let me find it. Here it is. Chapter 9, Pasuk 7. Okay, if you have chapter 9, Pasuk 7, please open it up. It says that Paro, Vayamot kol miknei Mitzrayim, all the cattle of the Egyptians died. Umiknei Israel lo met ehad, and from the Jews, not a single one died. Next Pasuk, Pasuk 7, Vayishat Paro, Paro sent, Vihine lo met ad ehad, from the Jews not died until one. What does that mean, ad ehad? In the previous pasuk it says not one. Here it says not until one. And there's a very interesting question in the Gemara. When it says ad, does it ad include or not include? Until. Meaning, you can eat chametz until the 6th hour. Until and including the 6th hour, or until and not including the 6th hour. Right? You can stay here until 8 p.m. Until and including 8 p.m. or until 7:50, not including, so 7:59. What is it, right? When we say until, okay? So it says by the Jews, lo met ad ehad. And there's a very interesting Dvar Torah over here. Right? Rabbi Bernstein brings this Dvar Torah. And again, guys, Journeys in Torah, amazing website. You hear all of his Dvar Torah. Fantastic stuff, okay? Fantastic stuff. And he says over here a very nice point. When did the Jewish nation begin? There's a machloket. Did the Jews begin by Abraham? Did the Jews begin by Matan Torah? But we know that Judaism, Jewish identity, goes after the mom or the dad. Let's say a non-Jew marries a Jew. Is the child Jewish or not? What do we go after? The mom or the dad? So we go after the mother for Jewish identity. But the Tosafot say that only began by Matan Torah. From the giving of the Torah and on, Jewish identity begins by the mom. Prior, it begins by the dad, which is very obvious, because look at the Avot. They married, and their children were all Jews, even though the wives were not per se Jewish. But before the giving of the Torah, it goes after the dad. So here's what's going on. We know that there was one lady that was not loyal in Egypt. One Jewish lady had an incident. Every Jewish lady remained faithful. One, what was her name? Remember her name? Shelomit bat Divri. Some say she was called Divri because she spoke a lot. She was very outgoing, very flirtatious. And that's what brought upon herself to be, she committed the sin with the Egyptian. But here's a very interesting thought on this Shelomit bat Divri topic. And they had a child together. The Egyptian and Shelomit, they had a child. The Pasuk says no animals died from the Jews. But it says ad echad. Right? One did die from the Jews. One animal died from the Jews. Which animal? This is the animal that belonged to the son of Shelomit bat Divri. That son that was born, his animals died. Now we know why he died. Animals died. Because who is he Jewish or not, that kid? You go after the dad or the mom? Before the Torah, you go after the dad. His dad was an Egyptian, so he's not a Jew. So of course his animal's gonna die. But Paro didn't accept that. Paro said, no, we go after the mother. The mother is Shelomit. She's a Jew. You see? Even Jewish animals died. And for this was enough for Paro to become stubborn. Again, going back to yesterday's class, how in each Makkah Hashem left a small hole in order to allow Paro to continue with his free will. Very powerful thought. Very powerful thought. Anyways, coming back, and that's why she's called Shelomit bat Divri. The Midrash says because she brought dever to her child, this Makkah of dever, of animals dying, she brought that Makkah to her son by having relations and giving birth with an Egyptian. Because he's non-Jewish, we go after the father. Okay, either way, beautiful stuff over here. The third and final Makkah, this is Makkah, right before Dam Fadeh Akinim Arov Dever Shechin, Barad. Right before Barad, which is the hail. Here's the Pasuk. Pasuk says, and let's open it up. Ki b'pa'am hazot, chapter 9, Pasuk 14. This time, the last four Makot. Ani sholeach et kol magevotay lebecha. I am sending all of my plagues to you. This is it. I'm going all out. Uba'avadecha ubamecha. Why? What's the goal of the last four Makot? Again, if they're educating us. The first three were to teach us that there is a God. The second three were to teach us that Hashem is in the world. The last set, the final third, Ba'avur teda, says Hashem, so that you know. He says why he's doing it. It's amazing. So that you know. Ki en kamoni bechol haaretz. There is no other force like me. There is no other God. Knocking out the third ideology. You accept multiple gods? En kamoni, there is no God. And the last four, they basically show God, what does he do in that Makkah of hail? He brings fire. He brings water. He puts them together. There's no God of fire and God of... I'm the only God. And I'll put whatever I want in the world and make it happen. He controls the wind. He brings the arbeh. He removes darkness. There's no jurisdiction of day and night. I say what's day and night. I'm the only force. Amazing, amazing, amazing stuff. And again, we see it literally in the Psukim. And now we answer another question. We know on the Haggadah of Pesach, after we say the 10 Makot, Rabbi Yehuda haya noten bahem simanim. Rabbi Yehuda used to give them a sign, an acronym, an easy way to remember the Makot. Just in case you forgot, here it is. Detzach, Adash, be'ahav, right? And we dip a finger, we pour the blood into the wine into the cup. Detzach adash be'achav. What exactly is Rabbi Yehuda doing? This is something very easy. I could do this. My little son could do this. Benny, give me an acronym, please. Okay, Dad, I'm on it. Got it. First letter of each word. Tetzach, Adash, Be'achav. Anyone could do this. I don't need Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, big rabbi, to do this for me. The answer, of course, is Rabbi Yehuda is teaching us this entire Dvar Torah in 3 acronyms. Tetzach, Adash, Be'achav. The first 3, the middle 3, and the last 4. They each one were their own set of makot. Tetzach were to teach us something. Adash were to teach us something. Be'achav were to teach us something. He could have divided it 4, 3, and 3. 5, 3, and... He didn't. He did it 3, 3, and 4 because he knew what he was doing. He's teaching us this exact idea. That each makkah had a goal. The first 3 was to show there is a God. The middle 3 to show God's in the world. And the final 4 to show there is no other God. And now we understand the pasuk that we say every day. It's going to have new meaning for us, I promise you. We go out like this every day. We cover our eyes and we say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. And we had a class a few weeks ago on what this means. Very important. But today I would like to offer a new idea based on the Kli Yakar. Shema Yisrael, listen Israel. Listen, everyone. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. And each topic, each concept, each word in the Shema is to, again, throw out a different type of denier in Hashem. The first thing we say, listen, Israel, Hashem, there is a God, Tetzach. He does exist. There is a creator. There is a force that started it all. Hashem. Elokeinu. He's my God. He cares about me. He's in the world. Hashem Echad. And He's the only God. There is no other God. There's only one. Hashem Echad. Beautiful stuff. And now we understand also why so many mitzvot revolve around Yetziat Mitzrayim. You know, Kiddush, Zecher Yetziat Mitzrayim. Tefillin, Mitzrayim. Mezuzah, Mitzrayim. Talet, Mitzrayim. Shabbat, Mitzrayim. Pesach, Mitzrayim. Shema, Mitzrayim. The whole day, my whole life, I'm remembering Egypt. Why? Take it easy. Takarisi. I got it. All right? I got Mitzrayim. You know what I'm saying? The answer is no. Mitzrayim is very important. Because Mitzrayim is the diploma when Hashem proved Himself. When Hashem rocked Egypt, the greatest of the greatest magicians. He showed them He controls nature. He showed them that He is a God. He showed them that He is involved. He showed them that there is no other God. And by referring back to Mitzrayim, we are able to instill in our lives the emunah that's necessary. Because Hashem's not going to come down to every one of us. I'm sorry to say. He's not going to come down every time we pick up our finger and challenge Him and say, God, if you're there, I want you to hear me. It's not how He works. We cannot make Him dance to our music. But He's there. And Yetziat Mitzrayim is the reference point. We go back, we remember those miracles. May we be zocher, everybody, to miracles like Hashem did for Mitzrayim. He will do for us, taking us out of the galuyot that we are in right now, this very long and horrible galut of Edom that we are in, taking us Be'ezat Hashem back to the promised land. Ve'hotzeti, ve'itzarti, ve'ga'alti, ve'lakachti, to be zocher, to come back with our full emunah in Hashem, in all the levels possible, and we will say, Bayom Hahu, Yeh Hashem Echad, Ushmo Echad. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.